the Royalman Report. They even have a sponsor now.
Kelly's Westport in with Jeff Herr.
I'm the back to baseball guy.
Michael Engel.
They call themselves the Kings of Kaufman.
Chris Kamler, who is the producer.
All right, stand by.
And Troy Olson. And now, the Royalman Report.
Which is this group of Royals fans, like 3 or 4 of them, and they are kind of clinically insane.
And welcome into the Royalman Report. This is, of course, the Royalman Report, and that's a brand new open that I put together. I hope you all enjoy it quite a bit. Took out a lot of the internet stuff. No more fake Ned, no more Casey Royalman. Time to get down to business here in the man cave. And
R.I.P. fake Ned.
And put on a good show.
Didn't we have that post like a couple months ago? Your diva post?
Yeah.
According to Get Nick Right? Or
It's not my first time with the diva post, really.
won't be the last either.
Every once in a while.
You just have to let it out once in a while. You just got to let your freak flag fly.
Let the
there,
freak
right,
flag fly, baby.
So, of course, I am Troy Olson. I'm joined in studio by Jeff Herr, Chris Kamler, and, of course, as always, Michael Engel. And the new open, it features a lot of pieces from when we were featured in the Man Cave by Fox 4. And so if you haven't seen that, you can still find it on the website if you Google Fox 4.
We don't know. Sorry. We don't.
Fox 4.
But now I'm going to make an awkward transition to our
Speaking of Fox 4, let's bring in
Brad Fanning from KCTV5 did a great article this last week on the Royals Academy, and he's apparently a fan too. So
oh my goodness!
he obviously has no taste in what podcasts he listens to. So,
or he only has one to choose from. So.
Brad, how you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Good. I'll tell you what. I've been wanting to get in Fake Ned's basement for a long time, but only for this
famous last word.
But only for this show. That's the only.
If I had a
reason.
nickel for every time I heard that phrase.
I'll tell you what, I'd add 12 cents.
We have an interesting list of people that have sat on that couch, from people that have just been married to Nick Wright to.
As long as we don't run a black light over it, I think we're going to be just fine.
Right. So, anyways, this is the Royalman Report, and we are, of course, sponsored by Kelly's Westport Inn. And if you need a beer tonight, that's definitely the place to go.
Hey, Troy, look behind you.
I know, I can't turn very far, but isn't this amazing?
It's pretty sweet.
And Jeff Herr, who is the gentleman that put these together for us?
Grant Gates is a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine. I went to grade school with him, high school with him the whole day. I've known him forever, and works for a sign company. So he said he'd make.
He does a great
signs up
job
for us, and they are phenomenal. They're really great looking signs.
And the Echo logo is actually by PSA Press, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the Echo logo you see back there, that was designed by PSA Press. The Royalman Report logo, designed by a Hair Off Square. So we want to send love out to all these people that have been parts of our family so far. And it's a crazy, crazy family. So we're going to talk a little bit about current baseball. We're going to talk about Brad's article on the Baseball Academy, or his story on the Baseball Academy, and which is one of the coolest things in baseball history.
that nobody knows about.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we're coming off of course, you know that if you don't know, I'm surprised that us guys, do the KC Baseball Vault from 6 to 7 on Thursdays.
Use your words.
And we had a chance, because we're aligned with the Kansas City Baseball Historical Society, we had a chance to sit in a suite yesterday and take in the game, and got some stories about George Toma and former A's and Greg Pryor, and it was a lot of fun, and we'll talk more about it on Thursday too. We're going to talk about it tonight. And then we're going to be, at the very end of the show, we're going to be joined for the 5th time since we started doing this show by our favorite baseball player, Jason Adam, who will be calling us from Wilmington, Delaware, and he'll talk to us about single-A baseball. He's going to talk to us about Twitter in general, the whole Danny Duff. We're going to get his opinion on the Danny Duffy thing, and we're going to check in with him on Bubba Starling, because Bubba's not doing any interviews, but Jason's one of his best friends, so we'll have a chance to hear kind of some insight on Bubba Starling as well, which we know a lot of you folks want to do. Getting down to business here, thanks to Lori Kunkel for doing the voices on the new open, along with Kevin Goldstein. The music's from 49 Stones. It's their new single called Superhuman. I love the first lyrics to it. It says, "Attention, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to tell you a story," or something like that. Very good song. Check them out, 49stones.net. And we thank them for allowing us to use their music as always. Chris, you want to talk about what happened on the Vault this week?
Yeah. What happened on? No, maybe somebody else can. I'm a little froggy today. I don't have much of a voice.
Chris appears to be a little out of sorts. You want to tell us why?
As you guys had stories to tell over the weekend, I too have stories to tell over the weekend, although they probably cannot be told on this podcast. So
Oh, anything can be told on this podcast. We found that out last week.
I will say, shout out to the folks at Budcast Podcast for showing me a really good time.
Oh, I
this
forgot you were
weekend.
going down to Emporia this weekend.
It was interesting. So.
Who did we interview on Thursday, guys? It's been a long time already.
Renee Latchman.
Yeah, Renee Latchman and
Andy from High Heat Stats.
Andy with the last name who shall not be named.
Right.
It was good. Andy was great, and Renee Latchman was very good too. Renee Latchman was with the AAA Colorado Springs Sky Sox, and it was after his batting practice and before his game. He's the hitting instructor there. He talked with us a little bit about his time as a second-string catcher with the Kansas City Athletics in 65 and 66. He also talked to us about being the first manager of the Florida Marlins, and he also talked to us about some other stuff, too. It was a good interview, and then we also talked to Andy from High Heat Stats about the Royals Mount Rushmore, which the more I think about it, the more upset I get about it.
Isn't it annoying?
With the Paul Splittorff thing.
Who'd you have on there?
We didn't even get to go into it as much detail as I think we could have.
It was George Brett, Frank White, Brett Saberhagen, and Dan Quisenberry.
Yeah.
Which
Splittorff's not on there. Huh?
Splittorff
didn't get a lot of the votes.
He
Yeah,
had
he didn't get a lot
1%
of votes.
before I went on a Twitter rampage that he needs more, and he got all the way up to 2.
Keep in mind, Brad,
Yeah.
this isn't our Mount Rushmore. This is what the votes on
Yeah,
the
it was
site
by
ended up
vote.
being.
Yeah, no,
And it was,
yeah, that's
it
what
was
I was
interesting
wondering.
to note
Yeah.
too, because it's kind of a national site. It's obviously not Kansas City based, and
It was statistically
when we first,
based.
Yeah, and when we first started looking at getting votes tabulated and everything, or just looking at how the votes were shaken out, Frank White wasn't even in the top 4. And Paul, like you said, Paul Splittorff barely had any votes. And so then we finally started turning people onto it, and then Frank White shot up real quick to like the 2nd or 3rd spot, and then
You know what
Splittorff started
scares me about like what's going on right now is I'm afraid like if this group of prospects doesn't hit, we're going to skip a generation of people that aren't going to remember.
Absolutely.
You know,
If
like and I'm scared to death about this because at least guys our age, I mean, we have kids. Most of it, or some of us do anyway. I don't, but if some of us do, that remember back in the, remember the heyday, at Royal Stadium when the AstroTurf and they were amazing. And so if these guys don't hit, it's really, really scares the heck out of me that people are going to sort of forget about how terrific it once was, and it scares me. So when you talk about the Mount Rushmore thing, that's what it makes me think about.
Well, and here's the thing is, again, it's national, and maybe we didn't do a good job of helping High Heat Stats get this out to the Twitter community, which I consider the best Royals fans on the planet, because those people are into it. They really have an opinion to share. But just to give you an idea of how far, and I'm not going to go through every person on here, but some notables, Willie Aikens, friend of the program, got 0 votes.
Yeah.
John Mary got 1. Seitzer got 2. Dennis Leonard, he's the all-time wins leader for the Royals, right? I think.
Yeah.
Sure.
He
Is
got,
it him or Splittorff, isn't it?
he got 3 votes. Montgomery got 4. Greinke got 5. Greinke got more than.
Well, that's because nobody has an attention
Everybody
span
knows
anymore.
Greinke,
Yeah,
so.
nobody has an attention span,
Bo got 22,
which is ridiculous.
1.77%. Splittorff at 2.5%. Sweeney, who is
about-
our generation's
What about
biggest Royal.
Danny
Yeah.
Chartable even? He probably got a couple of votes. I mean, he's highly underrated. I wouldn't say he's even
No,
Royals
he
Hall
got
of
0
Fame.
votes. He
Really?
got 0 votes.
Well,
Really?
Him
He'd
and
get a couple, but
Mike
Chartable I
McFarland
wouldn't
was the
get,
other
yeah.
0 voter.
yeah.
And what about Beltron? Because I mean that's an interesting.
Beltron
one,
got-
too.
that's
if
an
Greinke's
interesting
gonna
name.
get some votes, I
Yeah.
mean, Beltron deserves at least as many. As
He got
did.
this many. 5.
You know what? If you ask
0.4%.
if you ask a young Royal fan today about Carlos Beltran, will they even know that he was a Royal?
probably not.
And then he came up with they wouldn't know
Would any
it.
baseball
Probably same
fan
with
know
But you
that?
would
Johnny Damon.
Like who would you when you think Carlos Beltran? Who would you think? What team would you identify him with?
The Mets.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Mets or Astros. Just
And then
'cause he had a great
and then he had that
postseason.
great postseason for him. Yeah, so
And again, I'm not going to go through all these, but a lot of people said that the 4 for the Royals should be automatic. It should be because there's 3 retired numbers.
Yeah.
It should be Frank, George, and Dick Hauser, who got 2.73% of the vote, and then Mr. K. And he's not on here because
Absolutely.
he's not a player or manager or whatever. But in the end, it was 24.64% for Brett, which is almost unanimous. Because didn't we decide that you could only
to
get a
vote
max
for-
of 25%? So Brett Saberhagen 13.72, Frank White 12.12, and Dan Quisenberry 11.08. And it looks like this is still open, so this could actually change. But Kevin Apier was the one that was on the outside at 8.67.
Is this kind of like Hall of Fame voting, where it doesn't really matter who wins? It matters where you place in the bottom, 6 or something.
It's just how ridiculous some of these are. So, anyways, moving on from that. But that's who we talked to. Go back and download that show. It is, of course, on the Royalman Report feed. Some of the guys in the chat room are saying that it is sucking, but that's probably on the live stream end, so we apologize. Not the show, the buffering. The show always sucks. So,
obviously, they should know that much.
I get emails that tell me the same thing, so you should. It's good.
Dear Brad fan.
Yeah.
Continuing,
we'll blame this on you as well.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Thanks.
Continuing through the week, Will Smith, my new personal favorite, got his first professional win. Brad, I don't know if you get a chance to listen to our Vault show or not, or if you download it.
I will.
But there was 2 weeks ago, I made an insane comparison of Will Smith to 3 Royals Hall of Famers and Nolan Ryan. So these guys are never going to let me down, because all of the
that might be a stretch.
It just might be a little stretch.
All the sports radio guys were talking about how this guy had 1 start in the Yankees and he's done. He's never going to be.
Who was the guy that they were comparing him to?
Eduardo Villassi.
Yeah. I was working.
He's done better than Villassi in that he got a second start.
Right. Yeah. That was the one and only major league start Villassi ever got. Yeah. He was like 25 years old in A-ball to start that year. So I mean,
Rustin Dodd did a really good piece on that.
Yeah, he did. He caught up with him. I don't remember what he was doing, but he's clearly not involved in baseball really anymore.
And just because Rustin looks 12 years old does not mean that he doesn't make great articles in the newspaper.
No, I think he's terrific, man.
He's a friend of ours. So, well, he's a friend of the program.
Well, he actually came up to me in the press box yesterday, and he goes, "Heard you're going on the Royalman Report." And he goes, "You doing it on the phone?" I'm like, "Hell no, I want to go to Fake Ned's basement."
That's right.
And
Here it is.
And we were laughing about it, man. And so we were having a good time.
And that's the scary thing is I think we are accepted enough in the actual media community, more than we are by the Royals and their standards for media.
It's not normally 120 degrees in here. I don't know why my wife hasn't turned the air conditioner on, but it just seems.
She told me when I came in that you didn't tell her that you had a guest. So she's like,
well, I mean, she doesn't count these guys. We have guests every week. It's these guys, but it's kind of
we
what
don't
it is.
count.
So.
I just barely knock on the door and walk in because it was open. I was like, I just didn't want you'd have to get him. She's like, good thing. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Fair
All
enough.
right, let's keep going. And then the Royals, 2 shutouts against Oakland.
Baseball.
They won a home series.
Yay.
Second home series of the year. Played terribly yesterday. Just happened to be the game that I went to this weekend.
That all of us went to.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other 2 games, Vin Mazzaro, of all people.
Isn't that a good story?
Fantastic story.
I went to that game last year when Kyle Davies came out with my dad. We got great seats. I think he got up to his bank, which I have no idea how he got that.
Nice.
And we saw this whole thing happen. We saw this whole thing unwind with Vin Mazzaro.
Yeah.
And so for him to pitch that great today in front of the home crowd, I thought it was a great story.
Yeah, and he looked good. I mean, granted, Oakland's not the best offensive team, but still, that's kind of the problem that Luke Hochevar runs into. He's supposed to get these guys out and doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Back when we were at 31st and Wyandotte, I had made the remark that I liked the trade. I think Mazzaro had something. And then last year he was awful. But you can't take away, you can't take away a 12-game losing streak. Yeah. You can't take away the Hochevar inning. But if you could look at Mazzaro without last year, maybe he's made that corner. And maybe he is what I expected him to be. I'm hoping, because I would look a lot less foolish for making that statement twice. Moving on, he's watching just watching the highlights over here.
Gordon play.
Gordon Pena play, and Pena's not getting nearly enough credit for this.
No, he's not, man.
Last year Pena got roasted for a couple of plays coming from right field. He takes that hit. Maybe Quintero does that too, but I don't know.
Hang on, let me.
Here's what I want to know.
Let me try to break every. Without proper authorization, I'll try to pull it up here in just a second.
Here's what I want to know. After seeing that play, can Gordon play quarterback for the Chiefs? Because that looked like a quarterback rolling out. I mean that
was pretty.
He didn't even have control of the ball.
Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone.
The amount of athleticism to make that play is just unbelievable.
Or can Jonathan Broxton play on the D line?
Yeah,
for the Chiefs.
You go.
And he's only had two bad appearances, and they were awful. One led to a 12-game losing streak. But
one was awful. One was just a blown start.
Well, which was even better. On Friday night. I did a flashback to that meltdown in Oakland that led to the, and so it was so cool to see him just mow guys down on Friday night against the team that started. all this crap.
What he did to Cespedes, he made him look silly. Ball 1 and then 3 straight swinging strikes on 95, 95, 96. Just. That's the kind of you take that tape, you show them that at bat, you send that to every general manager in baseball. and just wait for the phone to ring next month in July.
Well, that's what we needed. We needed a solid start to the homestand. Sounds like we've gotten it, right?
Yeah.
Yep, and Twins are next. So.
And one more thought on the Mazzaro thing, real quick, and I know I'm kind of chiming in here.
Yeah,
Go for it. That's what you're here for.
You're here for.
No, man, it's like
literally you're bringing the best takes.
do you guys miss David DeJesus?
I haven't missed him.
And
Since
that was part of the deal, man. I mean, we got Frenchie. I can't wait to see what Lorenzo Kane can do when he gets
If
back
anything.
in there. Yeah, well, that's a good point.
And
Dice has
even
been
being
great,
Will
but everybody
Myers.
was freaking out when David DeJesus was in that deal for Vin Mazzaro. I don't miss the guy a bit.
No.
Yeah, and it's we'll see. Everybody's now
He's a good ball player. Don't get me wrong.
Now it's Milky Cabrera that everybody's up in arms about, and
we talked about that.
Right, and we did talk about that
what
on
are you gonna
Thursday.
do about
so
that? I mean, at the time, it seemed like the right deal to me.
a lot of people thought we
It
should have
looks
sent
awful
Frenchie
right
away.
now, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet earlier today. I can't remember who it was from, but maybe it was Rustin Dodd. But he was saying how people were saying, "Oh, everyone gets on Dayton Moore because he doesn't trade people at their highest value." Well, I mean, he pretty much did with Melky Cabrera. He got everything he could out of him. Made a good
Smart
trade.
move.
I mean, we talked about it. It just
I would have done that deal a million times,
Don't
man.
fault him. Don't fault him at all. I would have done it again.
Yeah, he didn't have the track record to back up the year that he had last year. It just happens that he's doing it again, and I don't know what you can do about that except shrug it off and just live with it, because you can't take it back.
We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. We're gonna come right back, and we're gonna talk more about what's been going on this week, and then we'll get over to Brad and the Baseball Academy. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Ben for Kelly's Westport Inn. Do high gas prices got you down? Well, don't worry about it. Hop on the bus to Kelly's Westport Inn and save some jingle jangle as you drink until you're blingle blangle. Kelly's has the best open air roof in town with beer and drink prices that are cheaper than at the pump. That's for sure. There's plenty of TVs to watch the soccer and the football games this summer. Plus, there's someone for everyone, and you can find him or her at Kelly's. Hearts and smoochies. So check out Kelly's Westport Inn, and you'll have more change to fill up your range. Rover. This has been Ben, Kelly's Westport Ben, saying smell you laters.
Hey Troy, what are you doing this weekend?
Gonna grab a beer somewhere. What do you have in mind?
I heard about this awesome new bar downtown. It's called Rage. The waitresses have a contest to see who has the most piercing.
No, man, that's not really my scene.
Well, there's another bar close by called Spit Cup. Check it out. The bartenders wear chaps, and every hour they shoot a guy.
No, seriously, I just want a bar where I can sit down and watch the game.
Okay, I've got just the place. It's called Lilac. You sit on pillows, and you drink from eucalyptus leaves.
No, Ned, but I just want a place where I can get a cheap drink and watch the football game.
Okay, I got it. This place, it's got a TV. It's called 816. All their drinks come in NBA hats.
Man, I just want a place like Kelly's.
Oh, you mean Kelly's Westport Inn? No, they've got all the basketball and bowl games. They've even got a heated roof. The view is really nice, too, if you know what I'm saying. Why didn't you just say you wanted to go to Kelly's?
Kelly's Westport Inn, 500 Westport Road. Make it your place to go any time of the week. Tell them the Royalman report sent you.
I said I was going to just let the song play because it's such a kick-ass song.
Yeah, and I wasn't familiar with the song.
This is the Shins. They played they played last night out at
Buzz Beach Ball.
at Buzz Beach Ball. So that's a great song.
What is that? What is that anyway? The Buzz Beach Ball.
Buzz Beach Ball, 96.5 The Buzz. You're in the media, you know all about that stuff. No, it was kind of their summer kickoff concert. I think it was the Shins. I don't know who else played, but
Shins and I don't remember who else.
Okay,
There's
great.
else.
Michael Engel, ladies and gentlemen.
I do what I can.
If it would have been a baseball question, he'd have been all over it. But Flogging Molly, among others, was there.
Yeah, Flogging
Willie
Molly.
Stargell.
One last
from
note.
the We Are Family Pirates.
Right,
Well done.
Wow.
you
So
are.
one last note off the open, and Brad, we definitely want your opinion on this.
All right.
What is the answer to the Will Myers question?
Man, I don't know. Here's like Lee Judge and I talk about this a lot. I know you guys read his site, and he's terrific.
He's great.
I don't know, and part of it is because by talking to Lee, he and I have come to one conclusion that we don't know everything. I mean, it's almost impossible. I mean, all I know is all that he and I can really say, and he's around the team a heck of a lot more, so I obviously pick his brain and use his information and claim it as mine. But all we basically say is that everything the Royals do or everything every Major League team does, there's a reason for it. You know, they have a reason behind it, whether they steal a base or unless Frenchie's trying to steal a base. That's totally different. But so I don't know, man. I'm not so sure. I think the Royals have a really good problem because they have some really good outfielders. They got them in the minors and they got them at the majors. And I think Mitch Meyer's an interesting factor in that whole deal too, because I don't think the Royals want to let Mitch go. I think somebody would snag him in a minute, but he's out of options. So how does he play into all this? So I don't know. I mean, that's a really, really, really great question.
Well, that's about what we've been saying for 2 weeks
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
so.
I don't know, man. I wish I did. I can't sit here and tell you. You know what? I would love to see. Now, selfishly, as a fan, I would love to see him up here. I want to see him take some rips against Major League pitching and see what we got.
What's going to be the bigger debut, Moustakas, Hosmer, or Will Myers?
I think Moustakas Hosmer, because they're the initial.
They're the first wave.
Yeah.
I was at that Hosmer game, and that was it was nuts. I mean,
It was what 15,000 walk
rock
ups
star,
or
man.
something.
Dude's a rock star.
Like Gordon got a standing ovation too on his first game, but that was opening
Yeah,
day. and
no,
people were
Hosmer's-
talking, but
Hosmer's
Hosmer had those
different.
walk ups, and
Yeah.
I mean, literally they nearly had to stop the game for it. It was crazy. I don't know that there'll ever be a bigger debut.
No, I don't think so either.
One last note from the open on the game today. Hosmer's swing looked pretty today again.
He doubled the other way yesterday. Had
Yeah.
a good line drive single, homered.
That home run today, he hit that, and I said, he's back.
Now, wait a minute.
That was the swing that he's been missing all season. If he can find that swing,
Talk to me in a
he's
week
back.
or two.
Let
after
me ask
he's-
you this: when you saw
You said that
Hochaver,
2 weeks ago, Chris.
when you
Shut
saw Hochaver throw a great game, did you go, "Hey, he's
No,
back"?
because he's Hochaver.
That's what I'm saying. And Hosmer's got a ton more talent. Don't get me wrong, but I need to see it over a consistent. I need to see. But I will tell you this: Frenchie made some adjustments over the last couple of weeks,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
and so it's different for hitters than it is for pitchers. And Hosmer, to me, has a heck of a lot more between the ears than Hochaver does. And gosh, he's a heck of a nice guy and ton of talent. You really root for him. But Hosmer will be fine, and it is good to see him hit the ball hard.
Well, Chris and I mocked Mike on the suggestion that Hosmer would be hitting 200 by June 1st, and he made us look foolish for that.
Like
And
the next day.
The next day.
It pretty much worked out. I was like,
And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm starting to sweat our bet a little bit with
What's the
with Jeff
bet?
Hurd a little bit. We've got a 500 bet. We've got $100 on the line to
Yeah.
Billy Butler's charity, and what is it? It's right at 500, right? It's
80
at,
81.
81 and 81.
81 and over,
And,
I win. 81
I
under,
was
you win.
I was doing a big dance, about a month ago, and
When we were
now
3
they're
and
starting to
14.
climb back in a little bit.
And here's the thing I've thought too. Like what would make me the most angry, besides losing the bet, what could just
Right.
be pouring salt in the wound, is if they ended 75 and 87, and outside of that 12-game losing streak, they played 500 baseball
Oh,
the
my
entire year.
goodness.
That
It's
would
kinda
just
looking
eat
like
me
that's what they're
alive.
gonna
And
do.
I would not be surprised if that happens.
Yeah.
I actually put that out on Twitter if Royals fans would be happy with that.
No.
And
No, they won't. I mean,
I actually got a few that
Well-
said they were, but the ones that said they were predicted like 75 wins anyway. So
Because you still have those fans that aren't ready to commit yet. They're not in. And so they don't fully understand because they see that 12-game losing streak and then they check out for a while.
If not for that gigantic zit on her face, she'd be a pretty cute chick. But it's
Exactly,
still
you're right.
it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, let's switch to you now since we
Okay,
did
man.
invite you all the
Let's
way
do
out
it.
here.
I love it, man.
Just to
Thanks
sweat in the
again for
basement with
coming.
somebody.
You're welcome. You gave me a free beer, too, so I appreciate
Love
it.
it.
So-
we got more where that came from,
Really?
too. Absolutely.
First off, if you go to kctv5.com and you search for Royals Baseball Academy, you'll find the story, and it is embedded right in there so you can watch it yourself. It looks like it was Chris Oberhertz who did the multimedia producing on it, and then, of course, it's your story. And
Rusty Glussing edited the piece.
Okay.
And he's my wingman when it comes to doing these big stories.
so tell us first off why you felt that this was a good story for Kansas City.
Okay, first off, I love the Royals. I mean, I grew up die hard, man. I mean, my mom and I didn't have any money, so growing up, that we didn't have that much money. So $1.50 GA tickets out in right field were That's what we had to live for. So she'd lie, get me out of school. We'd go stand in line. Because back then, it was hard to get a ticket. So anyway, this is a story I've been wanting to do for a while. And it's about the Royals Baseball Academy. And it was a 4-year deal that Ewing Kauffman did. And he basically thought that he didn't get enough players, or the Royals didn't get enough players in their system through the draft or through trade. So he thought there was a better way to do it. And you got to keep in mind, back in the late 60s and early 70s, no internet. If you didn't see a guy, you really didn't know about a guy. You didn't. And so there was a lot of guys that didn't get drafted that nobody ever knew about. Now, I think there was a flaw in Mr. K's thinking. He thought you could turn a great athlete into a great baseball player. And I don't necessarily think that that's what the academy proved. That's what it set out to prove, but it didn't happen that way. So what they did, and this is great. I mean, I learned so much. I was always fascinated by the story because Frank White came out of it, UL Washington came out of it, Ron Washington came out of it. A bunch of guys came out of it. So anyway, I've been wanting to tell the story, and since Ron Washington, a former Academy guy, as they're called, is going to manage the American League All-Stars in the stadium named after the man that gave him his chance, I said, I got to do this story. And, my boss is, I'm like, I got to go to Arlington. I got to go talk to Ron. They're like, do it, go. So I really dove into the story head first. So here's the deal. Mr. K wanted more players in his system. So what he did is he bought like 260 acres outside of Sarasota, Florida. He built 5 ball fields that were the exact specification of Royal Stadium. All right. He had a pool. He had a tennis court. He had dorms. And he would bus these guys to Manatee Junior College in the morning. He wanted them to learn public speaking because if they were going to be big leaguers and they had to do interviews, they had to explain themselves. He wanted them to learn finance so they could manage their money. So what they did, and this is really, you got to hear Art Stewart say it because I don't do it justice. But Art was telling me, and he's the senior advisor to Dayton Moore. He's like 174 years old, and he's still in baseball.
And he walks around. Nobody knows who he is, and he walks around the concourse all the time. I walk by him at least once a week.
He's got a big, thick Chicago accent. He's an amazing guy, and I just love the man. And I barely know him. But anyway, so the Royals sent a letter to every single athletic director and baseball coach at every single high school in the country. They said if you got an athlete that can run the 60-yard dash, and I have no idea why in the hell they picked 60-yard dash, but they said if you can run the 60 in under 7 seconds, you got decent athletic ability, and you got an average arm, we'll take a look at you. They held tryout camps all over the country, and they picked 40 guys for that first academy team, and Frank White was one of them. He was a month shy of his 20th birthday. Frank will tell you, he goes, if it wasn't for that academy and that tryout in Kansas City, he never would have played professional baseball. 8-time Gold Glover.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine what we would have missed out on if we didn't have that guy? And so this academy, and the other thing that I didn't know about either, Frank says, listen, you're talking late 60s, early 70s. White Scouts didn't want to go into the inner city and scout, and look at players. And so Frank White, believe it or not, was unscouted.
Wow.
He was unscouted, and he goes to this tryout. He gets in that first academy class, and a couple of years later, he's in the major leagues, and we know the rest now. I mean, he was a terrific guy. And just as a Royals fan, as a kid growing up, to be on a first-name basis, I don't think he knows my last name. He might. But to be on a first-name basis with a guy that you grew up with, it's terrific. So anyway, this harebrained idea that nobody in baseball thought would work, and maybe it didn't. It kind of did. It didn't totally work the way Mr. K thought it would, but it worked. It got 14 guys to the big leagues. And instead of turning athletes into major leaguers, I think what it did was find guys like Ron Washington and find guys like Frank White, ball players that nobody scouted. And that's, the haters out there will say, well, all it did was prove that a football player couldn't hit a fastball. And yeah, but you got guys like Ron Washington and UL and Frank and a bunch of other guys that you never heard of. Art was telling me there's some academy guys that were in deals that got Royals, to the big league club. So they would, make trades, and all of a sudden Nelson Briles is on your roster winning 16 games for you. And an academy guy was the sweetener in the deal that got it done. So it's fascinating stuff, and it only lasted for 4 years. And the reason it shut down was because of the construction strike in Kansas City in the early 1970s. Because Mr. K's money men and some within the organization, who Art wouldn't tell me who they were, I tried to get it out of him. They just said they didn't believe in it. Baseball. You know how baseball purists are.
They get stuck in their ways and they don't want to move.
Yeah. Change is evil.
Right.
Yeah, and Mr. K was like, screw it. If we can get better players and we can win, then I'm going to do it. And UL and Frank had, I think were a part of 6 division titles. I mean, it was ridiculous. So anyway, we shut down because of the construction strike because Mr. K's moneymen came to him and they said, hey, listen, if you shut the academy down, you can save $610,000, and that's money you're going to lose because you're moving into Royal Stadium a year late. You got to play an old municipal stadium. And so it's just a terrific history. And what I did for part of the story, and there's a 9-minute version of it that's going to air tonight on Off the Bench.
Wow.
Oh, because they wouldn't let me put a 9-minute jobber on the news, man. We get too much.
On the news?
No, man.
Come
We
on,
got
man.
fires and rape and raccoons on poles, man.
And now Powerball.
Yeah, we can't do that.
I'm shocked that you got a 3.5-minute piece.
Oh, it's
on
actually
there.
4.5 is what I conned him out
that's
of.
fantastic.
Well, I never asked for it, and I said, listen, this is worth it. And I got a terrific email right afterwards from our assistant news director saying, you know what, you're right. That's a great piece. And she had no idea what I left out. And I left out some good stuff.
That's awesome.
So it's going to air tonight on Off the Bench at 10:20.
And I'm sure it'll be great because all the producers at KCTV5 are amazing.
Oh, my goodness. Why is that, Michael?
Subtweet.
They're great people. That's all.
Yeah, they are.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Are you talking about Julie Kellogg?
Yeah, that's
Talking
Jelly.
about-
I've met
We love
Julie.
Julie.
Julie's
Talking
Julie's
about Liz
fantastic.
Maniger? Is that who you're talking about?
I've met Liz.
Liz is
awesome.
great on Twitter.
Yeah.
You bet.
Are you talking about Abby Clopton by chance?
I don't believe.
You know what?
Abby.
What about Jared Pettis? Is that who you're
Yep.
Back to baseball.
There we go.
No, but anyway, it's a fascinating piece of history, and I got to mention Kurt Nelson at the Hall of Fame. He's the one that gave me this video and some of these photos. It's terrific stuff. But it's just really interesting stuff, and it's a piece of history that Royals fans really don't know about. I mean, because we talk about people's attention spans right now; they're basically zero, and you're talking about something 42 years ago. Are you kidding me? And what I did is I set my camera up back in the corner of the Hall of Fame just to see what people's reactions were when they walked by that display.
That's awesome.
On the subject of Abby Clopton, she just tweeted, I mean, literally, I'm
Did
retweeting
she?
it right now. Legends like Frank White and Ron Washington say it's where they learned the game. A
It
look
is.
back at Royals Baseball Academy tonight
Yes.
at 10:20 p.m. So
On
unless you're
KCTV.
on KCTV
Channel
5.
5, yes.
Unless you're listening live, you won't know that before
Yeah.
this comes up. But we're going to retweet the snot out of this for you.
Good, man.
And we're going to help get some people
Because
to
it's a people
do
that it's a story that
Yeah,
I want
send that
people to
over to me.
see.
I'll
I'm
figure it
not doing I don't want to it's not about me. It's not about self promotion. It's about I want people to know this piece of history, man. It's fascinating
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think everybody kind of knew that Frank White was from the baseball academy, but nobody really knew what that was.
no.
And I didn't know that Ron Washington came out of there. And there's a lot of this stuff that I had no idea. And honestly, if it was today, the NFL Network, they televise combines and stuff like that. This would be a big deal.
It'd be huge. It'd be huge. It'd be absolutely huge. And the academy, to the way it is now, it wouldn't work in Major League Baseball. That's a question I get a lot.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't work just because it just wouldn't with drafting rules and everybody knows what everybody's doing. If you're a player, everybody knows about it. But here's what it did do. It was basically the blueprint for what every team uses in Latin America now.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is. And they got it from Mr. K, and everybody thought he was nuts back in 1969 and 1970. Who's this guy? A new owner. You kidding me?
And didn't really know a lot about baseball.
Yeah.
A brand new team trying
Yeah.
something completely different.
And everybody knows that Frank helped build Royal Stadium. He was on the construction crew or whatever.
Literally.
Well, everybody was like, well, how was he on the crew? And then now he's playing. How did he get to that? Well, he got to that point by going to a tryout for the academy. And next thing you know, he's down there. A couple years later, it's all fundamentals. And the part I didn't mention, and I'm kind of giving everything away that's in the story, but what they did is, like in the Florida Gulf Coast League, which I think is A-ball. Is it low A or rookie league?
It's actually rookie league, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well, so everybody had their, teams had their minor league team in the Florida Gulf Coast League back in 1971. Well, the Royals were like, screw it, we're going to put our academy team in there. Undrafted guys. Frank said he made $48 a month. Undrafted guys against guys that were making $30 and $40,000 signing bonus, and the Royals beat the hell out of, or the Academy Royals beat the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Washington said we lost the first game and we went 24 straight. That Academy team went 40-13 and won the league. A bunch of undrafted guys, unscouted guys like Ron Washington and Frank White. So it's really, really, really interesting stuff. Even if you're not a gargantuan baseball fan, which obviously if you're watching this you are, but it's just a good story.
Clint Scholes added, the people that he talked to said the coaches kind of killed the deal because they weren't really committed to it. And let's see, to find that many players in that short of a time was ridiculous and could, he said could be duplicated with better results today by just snatching up former basketball and football players in the inner city.
Maybe I don't know. Like I said, from what I know about it, and I certainly don't know all of it. I mean, I've spent about 3 weeks to a month, and I'm doing my other stuff on top of that, my regular duties. But it seemed to me that the guys that really stood out of the academy were already ball players that nobody knew about.
And I'll tell you, we always have a bit of an active chat room, but you've hit a mark with these folks, Brad.
Good.
There's a heated.
What are they saying, man? What's going on?
Man, it's they're arguing about the stats on how many black players are in, or African American players are in baseball today, and
you know what? As a 42-year-old white guy, I mean,
clearly we're the experts.
about black people.
Right.
No, but I sit here and when Frank told us that in an interview, I'm like, well, man, just dumb me. I'm thinking, well, Jackie Robinson crossed the color barrier, and I didn't realize there was an issue with 30 years later or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, and I never thought of it from Frank's perspective. Because Martin Luther King was assassinated, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, the Vietnam War was going on. I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on in our country when the academy was starting up. And Frank was like, white Scots didn't want to go in the inner city, man.
Yeah, and the percentage of black ball players over the last 20 years has dropped significantly, and so I mean, there's like the RBI program, and other stuff, but there's nothing as progressive as this academy.
Yeah.
There's Latin America. There's a whole bunch of programs down there, but it's
the same.
A lot of that is like 16, 17-year-old kids and whatnot.
I mean, when you look at things that Ewing Kauffman has been involved in, not just in sports, but in the community, in pharmaceuticals, in anything, anytime I can talk with anyone that ever spent more than 5 minutes with the man. It's a conversation worth listening to, because it's always so very. I mean, you look at corporations like Google and West Coast type progressive corporations. Sure. That was Ewing Kauffman in the 60s and the 50s, and it's just an amazing guy, and there needs to be more about the history of this team, because we are so lucky to have this team brought up by that owner. We've been talking on the Vault with a lot of former Kansas City A's guys, and they talk about how crazy Charlie Finley and stuff, and and for Kauffman to take over, we're so lucky in this community.
And I don't think we really knew it back then. I mean.
And I think if you think about it, I mean, we're still feeling the repercussions of his death today. Obviously, I mean, there was not only was there the huge issue of the ownership, but
no question
it seems like any sort of innovation or anything like that as far as running a baseball team pretty much died with him. Kind of getting off on a tangent, but has the Royals done anything like this that's innovative in any way over the last 20 years?
I would say that they've done it in the last 5 or 6 years since Dayton got here
with the international draft.
I mean, for everything I know, Dayton's turned this job down multiple times before he got what he wanted to come here, because he knew he couldn't win with the way things were put together. And the Royals got very active in Latin America, which they weren't.
Yes, they did.
But I don't know that they were like the first team to do that.
No, they weren't.
So,
no,
I mean,
they
were. It was just something that the Royals hadn't been doing,
Yeah.
and he came in and finally said, we have to do this, and that he absolutely deserves all the credit in the world for that, because that has helped us a bunch.
Yeah.
But just it's something like this, where it's just outside the box type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what? But I don't know what team has done that. I mean, I don't know if I could think of one right off the top of my head. I'd probably have to think about it for a little bit. But.
I mean, but if you look at like the A's with the Moneyball thing, and then the Rays with how they've done things with hiring.
They hit on some pitchers too, though, man.
Right, but they also, I think they hired people who weren't the quote unquote baseball people,
guys,
because we talked about it earlier how they were baseball people afraid of change. You know, so they hired these investment bankers, and they come in and they don't have to worry about this fear of change type of thing.
And one more thing on Ewing Kauffman, real quick. Art Stewart was telling me that he's the greatest motivational speaker he's ever been around in his life.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard that as well.
That's not surprising.
No, he said the guy would just he spoke, and you're ready to run through a wall. I mean, and I love the fact that the statue's out in center field of he and Muriel too, because if they put it out front in like the Foo Gate C entrance where everybody's going up to the suites, not everybody would enjoy it.
No, when you're out in center field, you can walk by and read the plaque and everything, and
I think it's a great place for it.
You betcha.
And I really want to do like a documentary on this thing.
It'd be fantastic.
The more I got into it, the more I'm like, man. Because I want to talk to the people that hated the academy. I want to talk to the haters. That's a part of the story I didn't get into. And there's a lot of academy guys out there. Ryan Lefevre was telling me that there's they don't take stagehands on the road for the broadcast, for the TV broadcast, so they just they hire them. and the guy that's the stagehand that they use, or set, I don't know what the term is, but he helps put up the background for Fox in Detroit, is an Academy guy.
Really?
They're everywhere, man. There's a bunch of Academy guys.
So then, as far as haters are concerned, what did they not like about it?
They didn't like, like we're talking about, change is evil. They didn't like it. A waste of money, waste of time. Why are we spending resources on this when we could go out and do things the way we've always done it?
So these are people within like the Royals organization.
There was a few, and I don't know who they are, and I don't necessarily want to point them out, but they were everywhere in baseball.
So there were other people that. Do you think some of it may have stemmed from some sort of jealousy? Like, oh, we didn't think of this idea first.
I think they hated it from the beginning. Yeah. And I think Mr. K's Moneyman hated it from the beginning, from what I understand. And again, this is a 9-minute piece, but it sort of gives you the nuts and bolts of it. I mean, it's a nice Cliff Notes version of the story of the Academy.
We're going to take a break here real quick, and when we come back, that's fantastic. And so that's on tonight. Is that going to be running? Do they?
I'm trying to
try to get it to Metro Sports or something and have them play because
I'm trying to get our web people to put on the 9-minute piece.
That'd be great.
And they look at me like, that might crash our site. And I'm like, well, if it doesn't, it needs to be on there, please.
Yeah, and we'll send plenty of traffic. We'll
definitely,
watch it tonight and
definitely, man.
So
it's going to run tonight at 10:20. So DVR it if you're watching live, or watch it live. And then I'm going to do my best. I'll throw a tantrum if I don't get this thing on our website.
Well, those IT guys always wanting to make it easy.
Crazy, wacky
Brad, you're more than
IT
welcome to stay with us. If you need to take off, that's cool too. Thank you so much for coming out here to the Man Cave.
I love you guys' passion, man. This is great stuff. People that take themselves way too seriously really piss me off.
We don't have that problem here.
So that's why I love you guys.
We'll be right back with Jason Adam.
Kelly's Westport, it's the place where you buy beer. This guy came into the bar the other day and was telling me that they had friends in town and went down to that fancy bar district downtown. They went to one of those swanky no-ball cap bars and ordered a beer. Now, this wasn't one of those imported beers, wasn't even one of those microbrew deals. This bartender rang up the tab and he wanted $27 for 3 dadgum beers. $27 for some beers. That isn't right. That isn't fair. So he took them down to see us. We got them some nice big beers for half that price. Even had one of the ladies find a fella there. Got him some pizza. Listen, don't fall victim to those overpriced, no ball cap bars down there. You might as well take your money and throw it in the trash. Kelly's Westport, it's the place where you buy beer. Kelly's Westport Inn, tell them the Royalman Report sent you.
A show that looks at Kansas City baseball's past, present, and future.
Gordon dives, and yes, he made that catch.
The Kansas City Baseball Vault, every Thursday at 6 on ESPN 1510 AM.
And welcome back into the Royalman Report. If you've missed the show so far, well, if you're listening live, you've missed it. If you're listening on a podcast, you just don't know how to work the player.
Figure it out.
But we just had a great segment with Brad Fanning, the Brad Fanning Show. Or I guess it's just Brad Fanning Show on Twitter.
Are you in relation to Dakota? Do you get that question a lot?
That's my daughter.
Is it fantastic?
Yeah, crazy, one crazy night on the LA Strip.
Outstanding.
Congratulations. I got a movie star daughter, man.
Nice.
Yeah, she sends me an allowance.
Sweet.
I actually used that line one time on a girl and she bought it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Nice job.
Well, we're joined.
Speaking of crazy nights, we're joined.
We're joined on the show by 5-time guest of the Royalman Report, Casey area native, having a great year down in Single A. He is Jason Adam. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're always doing well, and always glad to have you on. Thank you for continuing to be a big part of our show. So, your team's...
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, not a problem.
Yeah. Your team down in single A, they're doing okay, but you look at your first stat that everybody looks at, it's wins, losses, and you're going to be a perfect example of why, especially in the minor leagues, wins and losses don't matter. What is going on down there? You got great numbers, except for your win-loss record. Your team just don't have your back, or what's going on?
I don't know what's going on, but I mean, yeah, win-loss record right now is not too great, but I mean, I obviously don't like losing, but I'm trying to I can't control wins and losses, so I'm trying to control what I can control.
So you've been a professional baseball player for a couple of years now. Still just 20. You're just 20, right? You haven't even hit 21 yet, have you?
Right.
Yeah,
I won't
20
turn
years
21
old.
Until the end of
From Overland Park, birthday's 8/4/91, according to your MILB page here.
What are you doing, man?
What, you want to give out his sign too? Maybe
What's
his
your
social security number?
man?
Well, let me tell you,
What was your first pet?
that wasn't the direction I was headed with.
We're
that.
trying to
Mother's
guess your
maiden name?
passwords.
Hey, this guy did get a big signing bonus, so I mean,
If you were a tree.
Anyways, he started 11 games. He's got 63 innings pitched. He's got an ERA of 3.57 and a great strikeout to walk ratio. What did we say it was? It was 3.5 to 1 or something like
it's
that.
3 to
Mike?
1.
Yeah. So you're doing pretty good on the numbers you can control. How is everything feeling for you this year? Are you feeling the best you've ever felt, or where are you at on your personal opinion of your success this year?
I'm pretty happy with the results of this year so far, but at the same time, it's every time I go out to a start, I feel like I improve in one area, but then I see like 5 or 6 more things that I need to improve on. So just constantly learning, especially at this level. And Steve Luber, our pitching coach, he's been working with me a ton, and I feel like I've learned so much just since spring training, and then hopefully I'll continue to learn.
Now, so you say that there's a few things. Do they come to you and say, "Okay, Jason, this is what we're seeing. You know, you're not real sharp here, but you're looking real good over here." Are you getting pretty good positive feedback, or what are the coaches telling you that you're going to need to improve to get to Double A?
Yeah, I mean they always give me positive feedback. A big thing for me is just consistency of all 3 of my pitches, being able to locate the ball down, especially. That's one of the things we were working on. Is I was losing the ball arm side a lot at the beginning of the year, so we just slightly changed my grip and my command got better. But as far as getting to Double A, I mean that's obviously a big jump. So I think if I could get consistent with all 3 pitches down in the zone, and then maybe even eventually add a 4th or 5th pitch, I think that would all help.
We're talking with Jason Adam on the Royalman Report, and Jason, I talked to Jake Odorizzi a couple of weeks ago, and he had mentioned that he felt the jump from AAA or Double A to AAA was less complicated and less difficult than the jump from A to Double A. As you're getting started to do that, what are you looking at? What are you trying to improve on? And what have you heard about that jump from A ball to Double A ball?
What Jake said is pretty consistent with everything I've heard. I heard the 2 biggest jumps in a player's career are from A ball to Double A, and then Triple A to the big leagues. So I think that I've heard from some friends that the strike zone is tighter in Double A. And obviously older, more disciplined hitters that aren't going to necessarily chase the strike 3 curveball every time.
One of the scouting reports, Jason Parks from Baseball Prospectus has seen you a couple of times, and he's been really impressed by a couple of your starts. I think he saw one of those games back in April where I think you broke like 5 bats and got like 15 ground balls. Is that the best thing you can see as a pitcher when you go out there and see that kind of domination? Or is it something, do you want to blow somebody away and strike them out? It looks like you can hit 95, but you've been working around 91, 92. So is that kind of working to get that sink in to get a lot of those grounders more often?
Yeah, I mean, strikeouts, they're I mean, they're the pretty number. They're fun to throw. I love striking guys out, and they're fun to watch. But as far as being able to go deep into games and giving your team the best chance to win, you want to be able to throw ground balls because that gets you double plays, keeps your defense active, and it saves you pitches.
So let's jump away from baseball for a second, and you may or may not be aware of what's kind of gone on with Danny Duffy as far as Twitter's concerned the last couple weeks. But he was kind of having some fun after the Lakers lost, and some people from Oklahoma took it a little poorly, and it ended up with Danny leaving Twitter. Have you ever found yourself in a situation on Twitter where you're just like...
And you're a great Twitter follow, by the way.
Jason,
you're fantastic.
Yeah, Jason_Adam9. I should have led with that. You are very good on Twitter. You have a lot of fun. Have you ever gotten somebody that's just ragging on you or nagging you? I mean, at the single A level, I don't suppose that a ton of baseball fans are on you too bad, but what is it? What's your experience like? Have you ever had that kind of an experience?
Yeah, I haven't experienced that yet. I'm still a A-ball pitcher, so there's not too many haters or anything. But I imagine it can get frustrating, and I mean, for some people that don't want to see that, and I saw what happened with the Duffy thing. I mean, I'm not going to go into like everything I think, but that good lady was being a little over the top.
Well, and just as you're saying that, we all just refreshed our Twitter page, and it seems that Danny's account is back. So
within 41 seconds.
So maybe that's cool. So maybe we'll all have to refollow him now and get that back going.
Yeah.
But no, that whole thing kind of just got weird, and you know, have the Royals as an organization, you know, some of that minor league instruction that you guys got, have they talked to you at all about social media, or just I guess it's more of along the lines of you know, telling you ways to just be careful as a professional athlete?
Yeah, I mean, especially last year and since, Twitter's gotten pretty huge, so we always have spring training and instructs Swanee, our PR guy. He always gives us the talk about do it, but be smart about what you put and try to avoid just like anything that you could think could cause a problem.
Now, you're up there in Delaware. Lane is over in where's he at, Mike?
Kane County.
Kane County, and obviously Bubba's still in Arizona. How does the tripod work when you're so far apart?
Well, we have to stretch the tripod a little bit across the United States. But, I mean, we all keep in touch, but it is hard. I mean, because we're all so close, like during spring training and stuff, everyone's right there. But last I talked to both those guys, they've been tearing it up, so... And, I mean, you can obviously see Lane's numbers online. I feel like he's dominating Kane County. And Bubba, he's obviously doing well. He'll do well wherever he's put.
Yeah, and actually, Michael and I have talked before on the show about how that lineup down in Kane County is stacked, and Lane Adams is a big part of it. But speaking of kind of tearing it up, we talked about how you've been having a pretty good season so far. Right now, if you are going to evaluate yourself and pick your biggest strength right now, your biggest thing where when they look at, moving you up to AA, like, oh, he's got this part of his game that's really great that is going to translate to the next level, what would you say that is?
I would say fastball command, probably my biggest strength right now, and being able to keep it down in the zone. My curveball might translate as well, but at the same time, I still feel like I need to improve command of that pitch so that I can throw it in the zone for a looking strike as well as below the zone for a swinging strike.
And so my next follow-up question was obviously going to be the flip side. What would you say, if you're evaluating your stuff, is your biggest weakness? Is that what it's going to be, the curveball, working on that, or is there something else that you're really trying to work hard on improving to get to that next level?
Curveball would be part of getting my changeup. I feel like I've improved a lot since last year, but it had a lot of room to improve because it was pretty bad last year. So that I would need. I feel like it's an okay pitch now, but I leave it up too much, which works sometimes in A ball. But with a next level hitter, they'll probably hit that 500 feet.
And then what would you say, just as a pitcher, regardless of whether it's your best pitch or not, what's your most favorite, most fun pitch to throw? What do you like throwing the best when you get out there?
When my curveball is on, that's definitely my favorite pitch to throw.
Jason,
bring back the Ephus pitch, will you?
I was joking with some buddies about that the other day. Just bring out the Ephus and then throw a ball as hard as I can, pulling it up.
Jason,
See what happens.
This is Brad Fanning with KCTV5. I got a couple questions for you, man. What's the best part of being a professional baseball player and being, I mean, what are you now, 20? Are you 20 yet or not?
He's just 20.
Yes, I'm 20.
What's the best part about it, man? I mean, is it you're playing baseball and getting paid to, I mean, what's your favorite part about it, and what's the part you hate the most?
I mean, I love it all, really. My favorite part, I guess, would just be I literally play baseball for a living. I mean, everything about that's great to me. I get up and, I mean, my life kind of revolves around baseball, especially during season, but it's like I still love the game. I love watching the game, and I love pitching every fifth day. I wish I could pitch every day.
What's the crappiest little city you've been to so far?
Oh, man. Last year, Clinton, Iowa.
Really?
Was pretty bad.
Where the hell's Clinton, Iowa?
Clinton, I don't even remember where, but it has a dog food plant. The whole place just reeks.
Yeah. And shockingly, there was a lot of racehorses around.
Jason Adams is not going to get an endorsement from that dog food plant.
No, from Clinton, Iowa.
Soon.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So, Jason, you are still in touch with Bubba Starling, and he's still down in extended spring training. Has he kind of told you anything they're telling him as far as where he's headed next?
No, I mean, obviously I'm sure he wants to get to the next level and stuff, but I try not to even ask him about that just because I don't necessarily want to know, because I don't know what he wants people knowing. I don't know what the Royals want people knowing, but I do know that wherever he does go, he's going to dominate, I think, and he'll probably be moving up through the system quick because he's extremely competitive and obviously a great athlete.
That was a major league answer, by the way.
He's very
very good, Jason. That was solid, man.
Now, did you ever have to spend any time in extended spring training, or were you pretty much thrown right into rookie league and went from there?
Well, last year, my first year, they kept me in extended till I think it was May 10th or 15th until the weather warmed up, and then I went to Kane County. So I experienced it, and I know it's not the most fun time in the world, but it's not terrible either.
Well, Arizona can't be all that bad.
Now,
No.
We hear that a lot, where they'll hold somebody back a little bit for that cold weather. Do you feel like did it make any kind of difference at all, or was it just something that you just had to kind of go along with?
I mean, yeah, I think it did help because I really last year, the end of the season was when I felt the strongest. So I don't know if I would have been there the whole year, I might have trailed off. And I might not have even made it to the end of the year because they probably would have cut me off at 100 innings, which is what I got to exactly at the end of the year. So, I mean, they know what they're doing better than I do. So, as far as I know, it worked.
Do you have an innings cap this year?
I'm not sure. They haven't talked to me about any innings cap, but I would imagine, if I had to guess, maybe 140, 130, since I threw 102 or something last year.
Well, a good friend of mine, Emily Klein, lives right out there in Wilmington, and I've told her to try to, if she happens to go to one of your starts, to make sure to take a lot of pictures for me, because since I can't be there, I'd love to see somebody that I know actually out there able to root you on and what have you. So, Jason, thank you so much. And if you guys don't follow Jason_Adam9, it's just Adam, not Adams. He's definitely one of my favorite follows, and he is definitely the favorite of the Royalman Report. So thank you so much for always being willing to come on with us.
No problem. I enjoy it every time.
Well, we'll be talking to you soon, and hopefully the next time we're talking about you heading to AA. So talk to you
I
later.
hope so as well.
Jason, thank you very much.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for having me on again.
All right, buddy.
We'll be right back.
And we will be right back as soon as I can play this song. Now he's off.
We're heading southbound to the next town. And if we arrive there so safely, baby, you can lay me down. Lay me down. Lay me down. Lay me down.
Well, it's the story of the two. Always on the move. They got nothing left to lose except their guns and their wounds. Now they're crossing border, sheriff's posse on their tail. They'd rather die together.
Come to Spit Cup this week. We'll let the person who has the highest bar tab ride the bull. We don't have any TVs in our bar, but we make our own entertainment. Mondays, it's free cover charge to anybody with a gun rack in their pickup truck. Tuesdays, we've got $8 beer night. All domestic beers are on special for only $8. It's Spit Cup. Wednesdays is longest tobacco spit. Thursdays is foot fungus night. Friday night is jamboree night. Bring your crap kicking in your 10-gallon hats. And this weekend, you get our world-famous Spit Cup girls. You get to pick which one has the most teeth. It's Spit Cup.
No love letters talking to the wall.
Or you could go to Kelly's Westport Inn. The highest quality drinks with the lowest prices. You know what we do. Drinks, friends, plenty of TV showing sports. They've got all the basketball and all the baseball on. Live music on the weekends. The best pizza in Kansas City and fun. Kelly's has the best rooftop patio in town and is voted one of the best places in Kansas City to check out the view, if you know what I mean, and maybe make a new friend. Make the best choice for your evening entertainment, Kelly's Westport Inn. Kelly's is at 500 Westport Road in Kansas City, Missouri. Kelly's Westport Inn. Tell them the Royalman Report sent you.
Somebody stands up and says, I'm sick of the controlling and the silver spoon that feeds all your stories and your bowling. Are you listening? Are you
People will come, Royal Man. They'll come to the Royal Man Report for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll show up via a Google search, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at our podcast as innocent as children, longing for audio. Of course we don't mind if you have a listen, you'll say. It's a free download on Stitcher Radio or iTunes or on Kings of Kaufman. They'll click the link without even thinking about it, for it is time they have and baseball discussion they lack. And they'll sit in their chair, sit at their desk on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have a download all queued up and ready where they listened last week and cheered for their favorite segments. And they'll listen to the show, and it'll be as if they dipped themselves in magic waters. The insight will be so thick they'll have to brush it away from their faces. People will come, Royal Man. The one constant through all the months, Royal Man, has been baseball and the Royal Man Report. Kansas City has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It has been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But the Royal Man Report has marked the time. This podcast, these listeners, it's a part of our past, Royal Man. It reminds us of all that was once good and could be again. Oh, people will come, Royal Man. People will most definitely come.
They're playing. This is 49 Stones. They're playing somewhere on the 29th. I can't remember exactly where, but I'll find it. But anyways, I am Troy Olson. This is the Royal Man Report. 49 Stones. Been with us since pretty much the beginning. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
No, you just ruined it for me.
Yeah.
You just ruined it right there.
Hey, I got to rock.
God bless, man. That was terrible.
Alrighty, so we had a action-packed show on Thursday, so we didn't have a chance to get to some things that I wanted to get to. So I'm going to talk for a minute because
Royal Man's rants.
So Oswald's been signed.
Sponsor this.
Oswald's been signed by the Texas Rangers. Thank you, God. Now, can everybody please shut up about Roy Oswald? I've heard enough. He's going to go to Texas. He might be great. He might suck. He was never coming to Kansas City. He wanted to play for a team that could go to the playoffs. And at this moment, we cannot go to the playoffs. So
he waited till June 1st.
Like he had said he was going to do all along. He wanted to go to the
Cardinals.
first
place team.
Right. Got a big
They're
contract.
close to his home. Makes perfectly sense.
Yeah, I mean, so it's done. Gerard Dyson had his feelings hurt by Chris Perez. Chris Perez did the "you can't see me," and that hurt Gerard Dyson's feelings. Gerard, don't strike out on 3 pitches.
And don't trot to the ball and then drop it like yesterday.
Yeah, he could maybe step up his
Here's
defense
my
just a
thing
smidge.
on Dyson. I don't know if he's positioning himself or this is where the Royals are, but it seems like somebody thinks that his speed can make up for that positioning difference because it seems like he doesn't get to a lot of balls that he should be getting to, or if he gets to them, he doesn't get there quick enough to make an actual play on them.
I think he's sort of like Escobar, is that he's so fast. He doesn't have to take the perfect route to it. Kind of like Escobar in that game at Oakland that started the slide. He relies on his arm so much that he doesn't really think he has to charge in on the ball. I mean, the way Dyson is, he is so fast, man. He can run a figure 8 and still track a ball down on the warning track. You know what I mean?
I've seen him have the hits where it's just a single and he's on first and he's around third. I look back, I'm like, oh, he's probably on his way to third and he's already halfway to home. Like, good God! But I think his speed is the most valuable on the base paths. I think defensively, he's just not adept enough to be that good of a defender. His speed probably makes up.
He's gotten better though.
He absolutely has, and his speed is enough to make up for some of what he lacks. But I think that's where they target his value. If the Royals are a playoff team and they come into the playoffs and
he's not a
it's
starter.
he's not a starter. But if it's the bottom of the 9th and it's a tie ball game,
he's Dave
and
Roberts.
Billy Butler gets on first, and you pinch run with Gerard Dyson, that's a big time weapon to have. And I think that's the ultimate goal. It's just the problem is the Royals aren't even close to that right now.
Yeah, and someone asked me, they're like, why did they play Dyson all the time? And his speed, that's what they like, but. The difficulty is his on-base percentage is like 320, which isn't too bad for a player like him who's kind of a
guy's a 50th round draft pick.
Yeah, he's definitely outperformed any expectations that they had, but he still isn't a guarantee to get on base. Now, if he does play that role where he's the 5th outfielder, he's the last guy on the bench, and it's late 8th, 9th inning. Somebody gets on that you want to pinch run for, well, he's guaranteed right that second to be on base. So it's between relying on him to get himself on base or to use him in the right way to have him on base in the most opportune time.
And he's really distracting too. To pitchers. Because think about this. And Lee Judge has done this, and he and I talk about this a lot. He's big into. He's got a stopwatch everywhere he goes now.
Do you get paid by Lee every time you mention his name?
I'm just a huge fan, man. I actually don't.
He gets paid in poke points.
Like a guy that doesn't have a camera with him walking around a clubhouse gets a hell of a lot better stuff than I do. You know what I mean? Like Lee just kind of goes to the corner of the clubhouse where nobody else is, and all his camera meatballs are over trying to get the interview with Gordon. But he talks about how delivery time, like pitchers going to the and that determines a lot of it. Slide step, part of the reason why they put Hosmer behind Dyson was because they thought he'd see a lot more fastballs because the pitcher's trying to be quicker to home plate. And so Hosmer would get more fastballs because they're worried about Dyson. And so Dyson brings a whole bunch of stuff to it. I still don't think if the Royals make it to the playoffs, they get to the postseason. I doubt he's going to be a starter.
I'm still awfully excited that Kane is starting his rehab assignment. So.
Isn't that great? Didn't he get off to such a great start in Oakland? I was so excited about that guy.
I like him a lot.
Me too.
And then this is 6 years of Dayton Moore. And so, of course, somebody celebrates their anniversary of the team. You must grade their performance so far. And in all seriousness, he's had an up and down time with us, and the results have not been at the major league level yet. And at this point, he's gotten incomplete because he needs to do something this offseason to make this 2013 team a winner, because that's where we're at. And on that subject, Zach Greinke will be in town. It's Tuesday, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Twins and Brewers.
Do not. I'm the biggest hog around hater of Greinke that up until these last.
Now,
few months.
why do you hate Greinke?
Because he left the way he left. Because he gave up on the team. I don't like quitters.
Oh, come on.
I gotta.
A lot of people say.
That's
to me.
what I say.
I'm sorry, but I gotta back this
He
up
had
for
a
second.
problem with his employer. There it is. I mean,
the employer that nursed him back to health after a fairly serious medical condition.
I'm with you on that too. I totally get it. I totally get it. But he hadn't sold his place, right?
That's what I was getting to. So I've become a dog, a defender of Greinke, because I am ready to get him. I'm ready to get him back to Kansas City. So when you start hearing people talk about hogs and dogs, it started right here on the Royalman Report. No, I want him to come back. He does own his place in the Plaza. He does own his place in the Plaza. He also owns a place in Milwaukee and Florida. No real reason to have the third place. He must, somewhere in his mind, somewhere in that weird place that he calls a mind, want to come back to Kansas City.
Isn't his girlfriend from here?
And she loves it here.
Or his wife, I mean?
I don't think she's from here. I think she loves it
a
here.
Miss Florida or a Miss Teen Florida or something.
Okay, well, anyway, I'm sorry, but I have to back this up for a second. How in the world does Dayton Moore possibly get an incomplete?
Because if he goes out and signs 2 starting pitchers, like just to throw 2 names out there, Sean Markham and Zach Greinke, if they go out and get those guys, and that gives you Greinke, Markham, Odorizzi, Duffy eventually, but Paulino to start with, and Chen to wrap it up. That's a 5 I can deal with.
But I don't understand why the idea of him possibly making a move. I think you can give him a grade, and I think his grade is somewhere in the C range. I was going to say C plus.
See, I was going to give him a D. If you outright forced me to it, I'd say a D.
Now, are you basing it on the major league level, or are you basing it overall?
Don't you feel that 6 years is enough time to produce something at the
Not
major
when
league
you have
level?
to completely revamp your entire minor league system.
I absolutely do think it is, though, because it's been done before. If there wasn't somebody else out there that's done it, like when you look, I mean, I bring up this example. A lot of people won't follow me on Twitter, but like Tampa Bay Rays, right? And I talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
You know, Friedman took over in 2004. They were in the playoffs in 2008, and they were in the World Series. You know, and they've been a winning team ever since.
Now here's where I'll not only kind of grade Dayton down, but the entire Royals organization for an extended period of time. And I'm not smart enough to know why, but they have not been able to develop pitchers.
Oh, here comes Jeff.
I mean, I'm not kidding you.
No,
we know. I mean, let's go back to Colt Griffin. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, some of these guys. Now, maybe they draft incorrectly. Maybe they picked the wrong guys. Maybe I don't know the answers to these questions.
Jeff does.
All I know is that they never make it here, man.
That's just there's. I mean, even if they're
within
terrible,
the organization that has to point to that.
There's no way that they can draft that many bad ones. But like, take out Zach Greinke, and that was basically by accident.
Yeah.
The Royals just kind of lucked out on that one. If you take him away and you look, I've done it. I've looked at every pitcher they've drafted in the last.
Jim Pitsley.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at every pitcher they've drafted in the first 5 rounds.
Is that the first Pitsley reference on the show?
Probably.
It's not.
Won't be the last, I guarantee
Is it not?
you.
But I've looked at every pitcher they've drafted in the first 5 rounds over the last 20 years, or 15 years, I'm sorry, and not a one besides Greinke has made any sort of impact at the major league level.
Really?
It's ridiculous.
And
guys
even
just
the guys that
haven't
they
even
have
heard
now
of.
are guys like Chris Dwyer, who has lost all command. He's 24, I believe. He's might not even make it out of Double-A this year. Montgomery has his noted struggles. You know, Odorizzi's the top pitching prospect anywhere near the
Yeah, we didn't
majors,
draft
but we didn't draft him. I think the Royals are good at recognizing amateur talent. I think they're good at picking out a 17, 18-year-old guy who can throw a baseball really well. Once they get them into the system, that's where the difficulty comes from. And in some cases, that can be philosophy, developmentally, and the long toss discussion has been had multiple times here and everywhere else. They're finally coming around to that, and I think that's something they're going to have to address specifically now, because a lot of the pitchers that are top guys in the draft tomorrow are long toss type of guys. So, I mean, they're going to have to, one way or another, come to grips with what they want to do as an organization for that.
I mean, I've got the list here of every. I'm not going to go all through all 4 of them.
You've got
but
the list
they've
here.
44 pitchers they've drafted in the first 5. Excuse me, in the first 5 rounds of the last 15 years.
He gets very broken up about it.
And
He's very passionate
you know,
about it.
It's
lip was
players, players like Jeff Austin,
Stanford,
Chris George,
Yeah.
Robbie Morrison, Monty Wade, Jimmy Gobble.
Was Chad
Jay
Durbin
Gierke.
in there?
He might have been. I mean, I
They're
put
not-
that
I
name
think you
somewhere
are,
in.
yeah. They're not
but,
alphabetical.
No, they're not. Zach McClellan. I mean, have we heard?
sure,
how many
Zach.
people have you?
Yeah, McClellan.
Zach.
That's great.
Zach
I love
Stud-
that
or
guy.
Mike.
I got his home and away
Mike
jersey.
Mike
Stadolka,
Stadolka.
who was
I
last
mean,
seen playing first base.
Yeah, I mean Colt Griffin. You already mentioned Danny Christensen, Chris Goodman, Matt Campbell. Has anybody heard of these guys? I mean, these are people like the first five. It's not like this is the 50th
Heard of
round
these
draft pick.
people.
These are a top
Now
five.
let me ask you this. I'll play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Have you compared that list to other teams' lists?
Yeah, actually, I compared.
Welcome to the nerd lodge.
I actually
in
compared it. I actually compared it to a list of pitchers that Dayton Moore also drafted and developed at his time with the Braves
Oh,
from
good. I like
'98
that.
from '98 to 2006 before he left. Like when he
And-
first came on as a scout.
and-
It's the same thing. They have they drafted Adam Wainwright, and that was the best pitcher that they had, and I think Kevin Millwood as well. And those are the only two pitchers in that time that they drafted. Because everyone thinks of the Braves from Dayton Moore's time. They think of Smoltz and Glavine and all those guys, and he had nothing to do with them
those were
at
all
all. They were
drafted in
they were
late
drafted and
80s,
developed
mid-late
before
80s.
he even became a scout there. And I mean, I have that list here too. I'm not sure where it is, but I mean, it's the same. It's the same. It's not quite as bad, but it's the same. I mean, there's pitchers
Well,
that have made an impact.
For the first time tonight, I'm not glad I came here. Now that I know that information,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that really does bum me out.
I mean,
I'm
here's
not kidding. I didn't know that.
Some of these guys, like Alex Zumwalt, Matt McClendon, Adam Wainwright, but Kelly Johnson, Bubba Nelson, Johnny McGinnis,
Bubba Nelson.
Matt Butler, Blaine Boyer, Zach Miner, who was in the Royals organization
Honestly,
last year. Right?
I
mean,
got to tell you,
yeah.
it's all going to change because we signed a guy named Brooks Pounders. Okay, so there
We
you go.
traded for him though. We didn't.
That
Traded
was
for
a
him,
trade.
right.
That's
Yeah,
right. We
you're-
didn't
you're-
draft
you're-
him.
You are right. You're right. My bad.
So,
I get my Brooks Pounders references.
So I get a little worked up over this. If you haven't,
No,
haven't.
you know what? I'm glad. Like I didn't do. I've never done the homework on it. I just go, well, where's all these pictures? Well, they had all those high draft.
why we
picks
have
for so many
bloggers.
years. Yeah.
Somewhere Greg Pryor's yelling at me for not knowing this because he was giving me a lot of crap about not being on the radio and not knowing a lot of baseball facts. I tell him I leave that to. That's why I have Michael Engel and Jeff Hurd because I don't need to know anything. I just have to show up and talk, and these guys will keep me in line.
Yeah.
But who was the gentleman that was filling in as the bullpen coach?
Bill Fisher.
Yeah,
81 years old.
And
David Lesky hates him.
Well, yeah, and,
okay.
and Clint
Well, there you
Scholes just brought that up as well. Bill Fisher has been entrenched as one of the pitching instructors for a long time. The Royals have finally, in the minor leagues, they went to Rick Knapp, which is a definite upgrade as far as philosophy and being open to different training. And if nothing else, let's say they don't even adopt long toss or they don't adopt it fully, at least he's going to be open to different things that aren't a cookie-cutter approach because Mike Montgomery is a totally different pitcher from Jason Adam, and their development is going to be totally different.
Is Fisher out of the system now, other than the short term?
And
to
add credence to the Fisher thing, he was with Moore he was his right hand man with the Braves during his tenure as well, and that's why he came over to the Royals. So I mean, the whole the Bill Fisher, Dayton Moore, the problems that they've had. I mean, it's documented. Well, it's not necessarily documented, but it's out there.
Documented
The
by
proof,
you.
the
There's
proof,
stuff.
yeah, the proof is in the pudding, if you will, about just their failure to be able to develop pitchers on any sort of regularity. Because it just doesn't make any sense how the Royals could not develop anybody, and then the Rays have just pitchers. The Rangers, Rays, they have just pitchers coming out of everywhere.
I'll
and they
agree
can't
with
do
you.
anything about it.
Yeah.
My
It's not
fantastic
just bad luck.
My fantastically handsome producer is telling me we need to move on, so we will do so.
Otherwise, no, seriously. Otherwise, we will talk about this for 6 hours.
We really will.
It will be tomorrow,
right.
and
Well,
Brad's
here's the
going to miss
thing.
his show.
No,
we
man,
don't wanna-
I don't even have to go back. I'm off tonight. That's why I'm having a couple of beers with you guys. But I do have a golf tournament in the morning.
I absolutely hate talking about the MLB draft. So we're going to talk about the MLB draft. Goldstein has the number 5 pick, Kansas City Royals, taking Kyle Zimmer, right-handed pitcher from San Francisco. Go, gentlemen.
I think the Royals need a college pitcher. I don't think that they have to stick with the idea that that's what they have to get. I think it's important. They're at a point where they can get a guy like in the past. Chris Sale has been one of these guys. Travis Wood is one of these guys. Players who can jump in within even that same season, be at the big league level. I don't think that's going to happen with any of these guys because the Royals just don't push their guys like that. But to have somebody who could contribute next year or very early in 2014, that would be a big deal. But if they're not available, I think your top 3 college pitchers are really Mark Appel, I think he's got a deal pretty much
Is it
lined
Appel?
up.
Is that how it?
Yeah.
I've been saying it Apple, man.
I have too.
God,
he's pretty much got a deal lined up with Houston from what I saw earlier today. So, I mean, he's got to be off the board. Kevin Gausman is the other guy. He's might land there, and Zimmer is another guy who could end up there.
Sorry to interject, but I'm already that guy. But I will say that all those names you mentioned, they're all long toss guys. I talked to the guy we had on the show, Alan Yeager, and he said he's talked to a lot of those guys personally from the draft, and all the top pitchers in the draft, and the guys that we just named, they're all long toss guys. So I don't know what impact that's going to have. If any,
the Royals are officially not long toss guys.
Not anymore. Not anymore. They were officially long toss until they brought in Rick Knapp, and now it's I don't know the inner workings, and the Royals don't necessarily make that public, but from what I understand, it's a situation where Mike Montgomery wants to be a long toss guy, and so he has to come to Rick Knapp and say, hey, this is a program that I do, this is a program that I would like to run when I'm here with the Royals, and then he has
I talked to
approve
Montgomery
it.
the other day, and he said they had reached quote unquote an agreement in order for him to warm up the way he wants to warm up.
Which is smart if you're the Royals, because I mean, if he's one of your studs and he's like your elite guy, listen, there's different rules for those guys.
Yeah,
there should be. There just really should be.
Now we just need him to show some consistency on the Storm Chasers mound. Is what we need to do.
The thing about Zimmer, real quick, he didn't even pitch in high school. Did you know that? According to the 20 minutes of research I did on him last night. Yeah, he was a converted infielder, and then he pitches for the San Francisco Dons.
That's good. That's a good name.
Yeah, isn't that a great name?
Like that. That's pretty good.
So we're not going to talk about much about the draft. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I don't have time to Yeah, you're gonna go through like 500
I'm
players.
not good with the draft.
They could.
There's a lot.
These guys could.
I couldn't.
No, you know where you can get that good information.
I will gladly leave that to
KingsofKaufman.com.
No.
Pine
Tar Press.
Yeah.
Honest to God, haven't had time.
Pine Tar Press. That's your one-stop shop for everything draft you could possibly.
They do great stuff.
I figure I'll specialize where I can, and I'll let them specialize.
I called Sham the other night because I ran. Since the Royals were off, I ran highlights of Northwest Arkansas taking on the Midland Rockhounds.
Yeah.
And the Storm Chasers had, who do they have in town? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I called Greg Sham for PineTarPress.com, a guy I went to high school with. I'm like, hey, Shammer, how in the hell do you pronounce Elisal Pimentel? He goes, it's Elisal Pimentel. And so I tell you this because Sham knows his
They're
stuff.
solid.
And he goes, listen, man, I don't have a whole lot of time. I got to get this draft stuff taken care of. So he's been working on it nonstop. He's just amazing.
Last year, back when I could find nobody to replacement host for me, it was just him, and it was me and him by phone, and we did a total breakdown on his awards at the time. And he told me during that show, he said
His awards.
He has every year they do a Pine Tar Press Awards on the minor leagues, and he told me that you don't have to worry about pronouncing their names correct until they get to the major leagues.
That's a good point.
I have enough trouble with people like Jeff Francoeur. I don't need to do.
You mean Frankie?
Yeah, Frenchie.
Yeah, I know.
Frankie.
You're Rex calling him Frankie?
Did he really?
Oh, he did it a bunch early in the season, man. I called him out on the air. I'm like, Rex, man, come on now, dog.
So just a couple of notes here. We will talk more about the draft on Thursday. We're actually
Once we know what's happened.
Right. I am not booking a present time guest if you've been following the Vault on Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 1510 a.m.
ESPN 1510.
ESPN
Wow.
1510.
Because it just sounds cooler when
It
you
does
say it that
sound
way.
cooler. Now, do you guys do it? Do you do the ESPN show from Fake Ned's basement?
No, we do it from Union Broadcast.
They actually let us in the door and everything.
Really?
We get a look at
Is there security?
We get a
There
look
is
at Kevin
security.
Keatsman's pretty face as he's leaving every day, and we just hope that he doesn't throw Chris out. and
Does
we're
he
in
like
good
hand
shape.
you the keys like think you need to park his car? Is that you guys are
basically,
coming in?
That's a whole
You
different.
could not. It could not be more accurate, actually.
That's an off the air story, but no, we are not going to book a present time guest. Jeff has somebody for us lined up from the A's, I'm sure. But he hasn't told us who. But we do have a big show coming up the following week. I know Greg Pryor's in studio. Somebody else is in studio. I'm sitting in with the producer because there's going to be 7 people in that little room and it's going to be packed. So I'm just gonna sit in the back and
it's gonna
enjoy.
be a lot of people.
But there's going to be it's going to be a good show the next couple weeks. We'll talk a lot about that, and I may even try to reach out and try to get whoever we draft. I will effort to.
Oh, absolutely.
Get them on the show.
Why not?
No promises though.
If they have a Twitter account, Troy will be on it.
Right. Hey, I got Danny Duffy that way. You can't knock it.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's exactly how I got.
Pretty
Danny
much how we
Duffy.
got everybody.
Yeah, I'm the hardest working.
Jason.
You got me through your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Hey,
Boom!
There's your sound.
The
sound
G
bite right
word.
there out of the show.
You know, I set those 2 up. That was my doing. Anyways, just a couple of notes. We did have, because of us doing the work with the Vault and the Kansas City Baseball Historical Society, they invited us out, let us have part of their suite that the Royals provided for them because yesterday was A's Day at the K. We were playing the A's, and then they did a KC A's type reunion. They're doing a big one this weekend. Check out what is it? Kansas City Baseball
Historical Society.
Let's all talk at once.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, go. Kansas City Baseball Historical Society.
.com. And they have an event. It's $75. It's a really neat event. I won't be able to go, but check it out. There's still tickets available, I believe. And it's $25 a year to be part of their organization. Definitely do that. They're great people. But because of them, we had George Toma on the show 2 weeks ago. Mike and I and Jeff, along with David Lesky and our guests, had a chance to sit down and talk to George again for about 3 or 4 innings at the K. This guy is so cool. He is just so down to earth, and he actually was showing us his ring that Charlie Finley had given him because he loves Charlie Finley.
Yeah.
Charlie Finley had given him a championship ring from Oakland, and I was pointing out to the guys, he actually took it off and we passed it around. He let us put it on and we took pictures with it on.
That is a hefty piece of hardware.
Who's taller, Tim Collins or George
Collins.
Toma?
Probably Collins.
Yeah, I think
Toma's
so.
like all of
Toma's-
5'5",
yeah.
100 pounds. So
Yeah.
But if you ever get a chance to talk to George Toma,
Yeah. Pretty interesting dude, isn't he?
Most amazing guy I've ever talked
Yeah.
to. Greg Pryor's great. He's definitely passionate about everything he talks about one way or another. So if you haven't ever heard anything from Greg Pryor, he's going to be on the show, and he's very, very good. Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, this is kind of a present for Michael Engel.
Oh my, what is this?
It's gonna happen on the internet sooner or later, so I thought I would just get out in front of it.
Who?
Last night in Emporia,
God.
this happened. This is me in front of a Kansas flag.
It'd be better if there was a Jayhawk involved.
I want to say that. Let's see, in the front with the tight butthole T-shirt is AJ Kofelt, and then there you got Cody
Nothing
Hudson, and Santino Sosa. Those guys are on Budcast podcast, and then there's me in the middle. That was taken at about 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you guys look tossed.
And the night was just getting started. So
Hey,
I was on their show today earlier and listened for that.
Now
The
that's
Budcast
dedication. You guys do that, and then that morning,
I made them wake up early because I had to get back
You
for
had to get
this,
back,
but
yeah.
they were not too thrilled because I think I went to bed about 5 and they went to bed about 6 after they were. You know what? The details aren't important.
you don't remember them anyway.
But
so
if
it's
you
okay.
if you want to hear the night in Emporia with the
E-Town, man.
folks, that's great. That's
EchoNetworks.com.
EchoNetwork.com. They're on there now, so there you go.
So yeah,
Merry
check them
Christmas.
out. And then just as we're going out here, Brad, I did want to tell you, if you did not know, our good friend Michael Engel, former backyard wrestling champion.
That's right.
Really?
Yes.
I had that drop somewhere, but he gets
He
all
was-
backyard
He was
wrestling.
Rain Man.
The Rain Man.
the Rain Man.
Came out to a little Ozzy Osbourne.
On a side note, this will be my
Really?
last Royalman report. It's been great talking to all the fans out there, and God bless
Rain
everyone.
Man, former backyard. That's my
Felt
next
like-
story.
felt like the reign of
Hey,
a
you know what?
king.
Once I get out with my Royals Baseball Academy piece, I've got my next feature story.
Backyard wrestling.
The Rain Man.
Rain Man! You know, and I got to tell you really quick, Brad, and if you folks missed this episode, I think it's out on YouTube. You got to go see it. His best friend gave me all this dirt.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Mike,
Right.
And, I mean, just threw him under the bus.
He used
And
to be my best friend.
We had this,
We don't talk anymore.
We had this beautiful open planned out, and Chris and I had been talking about it, and we had to delay it because we were supposed to have Willie Aikens on, and we didn't want, if the Royals happened to see it,
Yeah,
we didn't want
we're not going to be screwing around with Rain Man while Willie Aikens is coming
Right.
on the show.
So I have this open, and as we go to Mike, as I throw it around like I always do, we go to Mike, and then Chris cues that, and
He's
on the
just
screen
shocked.
it says
He's
Rain
just-
Man, and he goes, "I'm gonna kill Jamie." It wasn't even a thought of who gave it to me. He
awesome.
knew it right off the bat. So, anyways, I think that's a good point to say. I'm Troy Olson.
I'm Jeff Herr.
I'm upset.
I am standing under a Kansas flag somewhere on the internet.
and I am thankful to be able to sit on Fake Ned's couch.
Yes! Love it!
And on that, we are the Royal Man Report. We'll be back Thursday on 1510 a.m. ESPN 1510. Come join us 6 to 7 p.m. next Sunday right here, 7 to 8 p.m. RoyalmanReport.com. Go drink at Kelly's. We love you guys. Go Royals.